all the quarterbacks over that time, it's Russell Wilson. And I know there's a strong sense that the man deserves an MVP. And sure, he does. But if we're being fair, then we give it to the best player, the most valuable player. We can parse words. It means the same thing. And the answer is that guy is Patrick Mahomes. Yes, he's already won an MVP, basically the first time he started. Yes, he's already won a Super Bowl MVP. He's coming off that season. And yes, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and now Brady a bit are getting all the press recently. Do you understand Patrick Mahomes is having a better season than all those guys? He has 21 touchdowns to 1 interception for a one-loss team, a divisional rival who they were favored against. They didn't look this. I mean, whatever. They got into a shootout and lost. I mean, who hasn't lost other than the Steelers? Do you understand he's 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, the highest adjusted yards per attempt in the NFL, number 1. How about his PER, that, advanced stats taken all the... Surely Russell Wilson and Rodgers must beat him there, right? No, they're second and third. You know who's won? Patrick Mahomes. So let me get this straight. He has the best stats. He has the best advanced stats. His team is number 1. He was the Super Bowl MVP and the MVP, meaning he left no doubt. That's the best quarterback in football. He's picking up where he left off, and there's someone better or more valuable than him? No, Russell Wilson is great. Aaron Rodgers is great. Mahomes is better. He's having a better year. He's the MVP so far.
Actually, I think that you're wrong, but I respect where you're coming from. Here's my issue, Max, in all seriousness. I mean, I don't know if I can definitively say he's having a better year. Russell Wilson does have 26 touchdowns to his 21. Yeah, he's thrown 6 interceptions to his 1, but he's got 26 touchdowns. He's completing 71.5% of his passes. They've got the same record. They're both 6-1. And oh, by the way, Patrick Mahomes isn't saddled with the worst defense against the pass in the entire NFL. You've got a Seattle Seahawks team that simply can't defend the pass right now. They're the worst defense against the pass in the National Football League. They're not a top 10 defense overall because of it. Their running attack on the offensive side of the ball is ranked like 11th in the National Football League. And although we have profound respect for Pete Carroll, when we think about Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, we can't ignore that either. So I think the combination of what Patrick Mahomes has available to him, even though DK Metcalf is a stud in the making, he's still relatively young with only his second year or so in the league. Tyler Lockett is a really, really nice player. But when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and we look at Mahomes, and then we look at Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, the best tight end in football, and McCole Hardman, who's no scrub, Sammy Watkins, who's been around forever, and obviously Clyde Edwards-Helaire can run with the football as well, and we can't ignore what he's bringing to the table. And you couple all of that with Andy Reid and with Eric Bieniemy on the offensive side of the ball, and then you don't have to worry about your defense as much as you've had to worry about it in the past. Now that's on Seattle's watch. Russell Wilson has to overcome them giving up points. Russell Wilson has to overcome teams moving the chains because of the ease with which they pass the football against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm saying to be 6-1 under those circumstances, to play the way that he has played,
the problem
to be unleashed in a fashion that he hasn't been unleashed before, I would make the argument that right now he could easily be named the league MVP.
That's a good argument because Russell Wilson has to carry more load, but I don't hold guys' teammates against them. So, for example, Russell Wilson has huge numbers with the stats, like huge touchdown numbers, because they want shootouts in Seattle, because they don't have a defense, right? In fact, it's interesting. Shout out Casey Joyner, the football scientist who comes on the Max Kellerman show on the radio, ESPN. That's right, ESPN radio. In fact, the Chiefs want to avoid shootouts. Even though they have all those weapons, they want to control you with the running game. And that actually keeps Mahomes' touchdown stats, I think, a little bit artificially depressed. Now, you could say he also doesn't throw as many interceptions. He doesn't have to as much in a shootout. But let's say Mahomes had 30% more touchdowns and 30% more interceptions. He'd have 27 touchdowns and 1.3 interceptions.
But you're talking about who's the better player. I'm just simply saying.
Okay, but even
then, we're talking about what we deem to be the better year. Nobody's refuting the greatness of Patrick Mahomes.
Well, it would be in trying to avoid shootouts and control you with Helaire in the running game, right? You would think, well, let's look at their adjusted yards per attempt. In other words, when Mahomes is given the opportunity to let it go, he's the best at it. Not only is he the most accurate, not only does he make the fewest mental errors, but he also gets more with each throw.
But you made the argument in the past that we would have seen the same from Russell Wilson had he been unleashed. The fact of the matter is he wasn't, because you had a better defense to rely upon, you had a better running game to rely upon, so he was never asked in the past what he's being asked to do now. Now that he's being asked to do it, you're looking at Patrick Mahomes and saying, well, Patrick Mahomes could do that too if it was necessary. But in the past, you said Russell Wilson, it wasn't called upon him to do so, and that's why he didn't get the MVP.
If Russell Wilson was in those seasons throwing 21 touchdowns to 1 interception, like, that's absurd. We don't even think of Mahomes as having this great year so far because we talk so much about Rodgers and Russell Wilson, but he's better than those guys. 21 touchdowns to 1 interception with the highest adjusted yards per average for a team that doesn't watch shootouts. Could you imagine if they did watch
is never determined by who's the best. You know that. You've lamented that, Max. Your own argument in the past. You've said it on many occasions. There's plenty of instances that you can point to in various sports where the best player wasn't necessarily the MVP. So we don't even need to bring up the fact that Patrick Mahomes is better, because that's not what we talked about. What we talked about is the year. You said they should, but you highlighted that they didn't.
Okay, but I'm saying Mahomes is doing it. It would be one thing, Stephen A., if he had 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, game managing, because that's what they needed, whatever. No, he is doing it. His numbers are better than Rodgers. His numbers are better than Wilson. His one-loss record is as good as anyone's except the Steelers. And eyeballs on Mahomes, he can do things that those dudes can't, except for maybe Rodgers.
Can I get one more in here real quick? When Trubisky's healthy, who should be the starter for the Bears?
Who you want to start?
You go, Max.
The answer is Nick Foles. I like the argument for Trubisky. He runs around better and they don't have an offensive line. Fine. Mina Kimes brought this up on NFL Live the other day. So you'll get a few better, positive plays on the ground with his legs, but Foles is a better quarterback. They've had a long time to look at Trubisky. He can't throw the ball down the field. Foles has played better defenses, so his numbers don't look quite as good. He's not playing well, but he's a better quarterback than Trubisky under any circumstances.
Well, he is a better quarterback than Trubisky, but that doesn't mean he should necessarily be the starter when your offensive line is suspect and Nick Foles is relatively immobile. If Nick Foles was a mobile quarterback with a suspect offensive line, considering the skill set that he has over Mitchell Trubisky,